the FNL Network Talk Show.
Hello, and welcome to the FNL Network Talk Show. I'm your host, David Stowe, and I've got my co-hosts, Linni, Holly, and Corey. How you guys doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Doing great. Yeah, getting ready to start up for the new year here. We just got done with vacation. It was, I think everybody on my side, and if you're a teacher, you were frustrated that we only got vacation starting at probably 2 days before Christmas started. But now on the back end of it, I'm loving it. It's like, wow, man, it's great. Had time to take all the Christmas lights down, and I'm starting to get used to this. Feel like I'm retired already, and I'm loving it. But how about you guys? You guys got anything planned for this year? Any new things you're talking about in resolutions? Anybody?
I didn't really make a resolution this year, man. Same as always.
Well, that's actually one of the topics I want to talk about tonight.
Survive the year.
That works.
I'm not gonna get hit by a meteorite this year. That's my New Year's resolution.
That's the goal.
That usually hurts, right?
So far, so good, man. 14 days in, and I'm doing pretty good.
Awesome. That definitely works. Well, let's get into one of those things. Yeah, talking about space, talking about things that are going out there. Back in 1947, the U.S. Air Force had reported that there's an alien landing in Roswell. People have talked about this many years. In fact, after that, that's been a long-lasting plethora of alien stories throughout the world ever since then. And it seems like everywhere you turn, you're seeing aliens. We have movies from it. We've got TV shows from it. I think a long time ago, Corey and I actually did the pilot, on Roswell High years ago. That's always something with aliens. And recently, even the government's been pumping it out. You're seeing it on the news all over the place. I'm interested in finding out what you guys' thoughts are on aliens. Do you believe in aliens? Are they just fantasy? Why do you think it's being pumped out there as much as it is right now? What do you guys think? And I'm going to start with Linni.
So I have been to Roswell, New Mexico. I think I was 19. Yes. And I had never thought of aliens prior to going to Roswell, New Mexico. Having been there, I 100% believe aliens showed up. Like, that town is beyond creepy. They have totally created a whole tourist attraction around aliens. Even the light posts have alien heads on all the light posts down the streets. It is a creepy place. I would not want to be there at dark. I think we stayed there one night and I was ready to get out. So that is my experience with at least the town of Roswell. But is it a government conspiracy? I don't know. I feel like in the last couple of years, I think I might be more open-minded to this idea that there are other beings out there in the world. I have a biblical worldview, meaning that I believe God created absolutely everything. We're created on a purpose, by a purpose, for a purpose. So in this world where there's a physical world and a spiritual world, and somehow they overlap and collide, that makes a lot of sense to me that there would be other creatures out there. Why not? Why is there only one world? That's my thought.
Makes sense. Good answer. Holly, what about you?
Oh my gosh, the energy felt in that question. So I'm gonna say
I saw your face, by the way.
What happened?
I saw your face when I asked it. You were like, "Oh, I can see it right off the bat."
I knew it. Yeah. So that's a really good question. Okay, so I'm gonna be really honest with you. Nobody believes in aliens until they like sleep in their house, like in the wee hours of the night. They know every nook and cranny of their house, and they hear an abnormal sound, and then they see like a door unusually crack open. Oh yeah, all that's a blast, because you're like, if you didn't believe in something, you believed in something in that very moment. Like, there is no way that this could have da-da-da to that, could have da-da-da to that, all the sequencing of events. And you're just like, I'm spooked. Like, every hair in the back of your head just like stands up, and you're just like, okay, I didn't believe before, but something cracked, like something at me or something like that, so it'll make a quick believer out of you. Do I believe that there is life on other planets? I absolutely believe in that life. Is it here to harm us? I hope not. Because if something's gonna harm me, I'm just gonna push it back. Like I just don't want to be harmed. I want to be loved. So, and it's one of those things. I absolutely do believe in another life. I believe in all seriousness, I do believe that there is definitely life on other planets, because we've actually heard about things on other planets, and and the signs thereof and stuff like that. And there have been some crazy, crazy abnormal things that have hit the news and things like that. I do absolutely, like, I believe in that. I believe also that we're being pushed to a certain view also, without saying too much on that. We're being pushed into things because of the evolving of what's going on in the government today. AI definitely has a play in that, and things like that. They absolutely want us to believe in things. Do we believe in those things ourselves? It's to each his own. I definitely believe in things. I don't believe that they're good. I believe that aliens definitely are just creatures. I definitely feel that if their intelligence level is, it depends on what their intelligence level is, and it also depends on if they know anything human. I know this: if there's other life on other planets, I feel like they were made without compassion, maybe, or made without the feel of a human, and that's really not good. Like I said, just love at the end of the day. Love is just reaches all, and it's the universal language. So do I believe in life? Yes. Do I believe that it's going to intersect with us here? I don't know. All that is out of our hands, and God help us what that picture is going to be like if some harm were ever brought to anyone. I think we're all kept safe, and I think I want my safety. I want to be my little bubble here. So yeah.
Like Mars Attacks, right?
Yeah.
Staying away
exactly.
from that. All we want is love. What's going on here? I'll be honest.
Absolutely.
What's that?
Don't run. We are your friends.
Don't
Oh
run.
no, I
We
said
are your
absolutely.
friends. I know, right? The oh man, I could go on and on and on asking you guys questions right now, but before I even ask any other questions and tell you what I think, I want to ask what Corey's got. I know Corey and I have talked many, many times before, but we purposely made sure that we don't talk about anything that we're going to talk about on here. Just because, there's no point in us fighting before we start, right?
You need an audience for that.
Need an audience for it. Makes it a lot more fun. So
if you give me the time to get into a fight with you about it.
yeah, that is true. That is true. So
Yeah,
what are your thoughts, Corey?
I could go days and days about this.
Yes, and we got
I do
plenty of
have,
time. I can cut you off when I need to cut you off, but
yeah.
Holly,
So
Linny, don't worry about saying hey. Our
yeah,
turn.
disagree,
Okay,
Justin.
we'll be the refs for the boys. Got it. Okay.
Right, disagree if you want to. It's like, to me, it's like any other conspiracy theory. It's possible, very possible. Never going to say never, but not very plausible. And 9 out of 10 times, most of the evidence that we have is just people chasing, oh, the government's lying to us. Well, the government lies to us all the time. And that's not evidence for a conspiracy theory for me. That's just evidence that the government's lying about something once again. But that's not the same thing as going that step further and having any extra evidence. I also have a biblical worldview, but very much a scientific biblical worldview. And mathematically, I find it impossible that life even exists on this planet. That even a single celled organism exists on this planet is impossible mathematically, and yet it does exist. And all of us exist, and it's in the trillions, which makes the numbers literally astronomical for me. And it is very possible that this entire universe is created and that we're the only thing that could be considered life. Maybe things view things at a different level that we do. Maybe things feel a different way. But as far as understanding the world and the universe the way that we understand the universe, I think as far as every evidence I've ever seen so far, we're alone in that. We're alone in that. Now, we all were raised on Twilight Zone and sci-fi movies and everything else. And every single time, first thing out of their mouths is that, oh, humans are such a terrible thing. And I say, yeah, but compared to what? That's just some human writing a movie saying, oh, yeah, we're bad guys. I'm like, well, you're a human too. Congratulations. Welcome to the human race. Right? Compared to what? How many times have we sat down with an actual alien race? How do we know an alien race would actually be better than us? How do we know they're not terrible and horrible? How do we know literally nothing about any of it? And it doesn't make sense to me either that if we did find something at Roswell or the government found something, why are they hiding it from everybody? What would be the intent and purpose when letting everyone else in on these technologies would seem to be the best route? And everybody could say, oh, well, the Cold War and everything else. Yeah, well, not a lot of that's going on anymore. We're sharing virtually everything online now. Anything that's even going on in North Korea, we at least get to see part of what's going on in some of that stuff, right? There's not a lot that can be hidden in the same exact way that it could have in the mid 20th century when all of that happened. So yeah, to me, it's a conspiracy. I do think it's supernatural too. And in other words, just outside of something natural. Holly was pointing out these feelings you might get in the house, that could be any number of things. And Dave and I have talked at length at a couple of theories we've heard too about the specific connections to aliens and what happens with aliens and the stories of people being abducted, the animal mutilations. These actually fit the same exact types of stories they used to tell about fairies and that they would tell about the Naiads and some of these other stories. So there's an argument that gnomes, leprechauns, right, falling asleep, and being abducted in your sleep. The stories are very, very similar. And then, of course, we have the nuclear age and the introduction of the idea of aliens becomes things on another planet becomes a huge part of our culture. So naturally, everybody just moves into that. And while everybody wants to pass off leprechauns and all these, oh, that's silly and ridiculous, there was a time when everybody believed in that about as much as they believe in aliens now, right? That was a thing that everybody's like, oh, it's totally a thing. And so everything I do, I got to take it with a grain of salt. And so the argument that we've heard is that it's something else supernatural that's kind of always been there, always been a tormentor, always been something that pushes, and aliens are just the new kind of face or the new facade of that thing, whatever it is that's kind of inherent in human nature to be fascinated and frightened of all at the same time, right? So that's that's obviously just the tip of the iceberg on this thing. It's a big subject, and I'd love to talk and talk and talk, but that's what I'll end with here.
Well, so I'm like you guys. I really, really, really I wanted aliens to be real. I was, the kid out in the backyard staring at the sky. I wanted to be the discoverer. I wanted to find something. I remember telling my fifth grade teacher, I came to school after Christmas break and said, "Hey, I just discovered a Little Dipper." And she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I think the Little Dipper's already been found." And then she showed me pictures. I'm like, "Oh, dang, and then I go back home and I'm like looking at my mom's makeup mirror where it's magnified. And I found the tear ducts. I'm like, I went to school. Hey, I discovered tear ducts. And she looked at me. She goes, "No, I'm sorry. I think that's already been invented or discovered." So I was always excited about aliens. And back when I was in my 20s and early 20s in the military, I watched a movie called The Roswell Cover-Up. And that really just got me going. I was excited about it. And about that time, my dad had been working, for, he did a lot of top secret stuff that he still will never tell us. He can't tell us, and when I had come home from leave, I remember I was telling my mom about this movie and how excited it was and how the government said that and talking about tapping into what Corey was talking about. Why would they hold that from us? Because they don't want people, their excuse was they don't want the American people to realize that we're not in control of the skies, that they would have no control. They would have no control over us Americans because we know that our military can't protect us, so how are you going to control us? So since we don't have control. Yeah, and they'd
90% of the people out there don't believe it, right? They don't believe they're aliens anyways. So the government trying to get us to not believe in aliens, they've kind of failed on a large scale, right?
Yeah. And then the other thing, so I was really getting into it, I was kind of creeped out how they said that they genetically enhanced all of our religious leaders we've had throughout time. They were like a bunch of ants in a little bubble that they've been studying. And to me, that just blew my mind at, 20 years old. And I went home, and I was excited. I'm telling my mom, and she goes, "It's interesting you bring this up." And she goes, "Look what your dad's been reading on the counter." And I look on the countertop and there's a big book on the Roswell cover-up. I'm like, "What?" So I start talking to Dad, and he was getting into some stuff. And he's like, I have reason from what I've seen to believe there's some things out there. And one of these days we might talk about it. But, just do your research. So for years, we got into it, and it kind of faded off, and it was not really something I was, thought about much anymore. And then Corey and I, it was probably what, 15, 20 years ago, me and our other brother, we started getting into ghost hunting, and we thought ghost hunting would be, why not? They'd have shows about it. That'd be badass. That's something to do. That's fun, and so, we started diving into things we shouldn't be diving into. And, we're older, we're smarter, religion has a lot to do with what we do in life. And then we started doing a lot of research. We had different theories on life after death, different theories on, third dimensions. We were talking like we were scientists because we understood quantum physics, and people around us got bored of our conversations. Well, it was probably...
They got bored with quantum physics? How can you get bored with quantum physics?
Especially when you're talking to a guy like me that barely passed algebra in
listen
college.
to yourselves. I'm just going to say that, Linni. Sorry, I had to go there.
Exactly. So, but anyways, long story short, I ended up talking to my dad, and Corey and I had come up with some theories, and it's just one thing that I really believed in. We had actually seen a documentary with a bunch of astrophysicists that were talking about these theories that all throughout time and every culture, from elves to leprechauns and gnomes and things throughout time, they all had a common denominator. And the three that we always laughed at was, 1, they're small; 2, they come at night to kidnap you; 3, everybody seems to have a story about getting anal probed, regardless of how it happens. And we always thought, wait a minute, I thought that was just, South Park aliens. I thought, and it's like, wait a minute. And then they started diving in and talking about these were happening with leprechauns and gnomes and elves. It's like, whoa, what's going on here? And chupacabras, and it was just completely out there. And and the funny thing is we really started talking about it, and I developed my own theory, and I think Corey agreed with me. And then I ended up talking to my dad, and he's been retired for a long time, and he agreed that my theory. He's like, yeah, I've come to agree with what you guys are talking about. What we found and what we believe in is who is the world's greatest liar of all time? Don't say me, Corey. Shut up.
Called yourself out on that one. Wasn't gonna say nothing.
Now, who's the world's greatest liar? If you're into a religion, it's the devil. And the best way that the devil can attack us and keep us from where we want to go is by making us believe that God probably doesn't exist. And it doesn't mean that because there's aliens that God doesn't exist. It means everything that we felt and we've been taught what we believe in, that he made us in his image. That makes everybody look at us like, whoa, wait a minute. I've been lied to my whole life. Is this real? It makes people doubt. And so that is why I do believe 100%, and like Holly said, I do believe that when people they see aliens, they probably are seeing aliens. And the reason being is because I've done other research in other aspects, and I've found, the leading exorcists in America. I was listening to a podcast from him, and he straight up said, he goes, the demons have been around since the beginning of time. He goes, we as humans are just now starting to learn how to tap into bending light. We're trying to learn the science. Demons know how to do it. They said they can make you see whatever they want you to see, as long as it works to their goal. And so I do believe when pilots and people that we trust and scientists and maybe the guy out in the street, that lives down on the barn that says that he got, his cows were getting burned up and he got sucked up in an alien ship. I do believe that they are seeing aliens. But is it from another world? That's, like you guys said, I mean, it could be, it's still out there, but if I were to bet money on it, I'm going to bet money on it. To me, those are demons that are placating like they are an alien. Why? Because it puts fear in us. It makes us doubt our everything we've ever been taught. It makes us go into chaos. We, like you said, hey, if we don't have control of the skies, and they know that, America, we're not going to have control of anybody. Plus, they use it as a weapon from Roswell. They use it as a weapon to the Russians, because the Russians were freaking out that we had alien technology that they were going to backtrack on, and they were going to do backward engineering on. And it's funny because we were talking
as a weapon, you mean?
It was a political weapon.
The idea that the idea
it made Russia freak out. Yeah,
Right.
they freaked out, that we had alien technology and we're going to beat them to the moon and we're in trouble now, and there was just a lot of things that have come into play. I was just reading something yesterday. It was funny because I posted, talked about where I was going to ask these questions. I saw an article yesterday that they just found an alien ship that is 30 feet long. And the scientists are freaking out because they just walked into the ship and it's the size of a football field inside. And the first thing I'm thinking is, oh, is it the TARDIS? Is it what's going on here? I'm so laughing. I'm like, there's no, and this came from a government official who no longer works for the government who was saying this. So who do we believe? Who can we believe? You don't know.
Are they saying it landed in North America or South America or?
They didn't get into where they found it at, but it was in the dirt and they dug it out of the dirt.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, we could go on and on and on. I mean, eventually start talking about pyramids, right? And it's
that's
like,
where I was going.
where did they get stuck
I wonder
here?
why we touch it, just as long as we don't touch it. Certain things are just left, like they don't go and touch our crap. Like, let's just not go and touch.
Well, I don't know. According to them, they're anal
That's all
probing
I'm
us.
saying. You can look, just don't touch. It's kind of like going into those expensive stores. Just window shop. Your mom ever told you, don't touch.
That is true. That is true. But so that's great. I mean, I love you guys' theories. I love, it definitely is something that I've been, I love to talk about. For a longest time though, I kept away from it because I thought a lot of it's just bogus. And when I talk about the government, the only reason I say that is because I have been told that now the government, like I believe Hollywood might have been getting towards this, but we're being told stuff just so we feel that we need our government to protect us. So, we need whatever they tell us to do. Let's just do it. Let's trust them. And I was like, man, they really think the American people are that stupid that we'll follow? Well, who knows? There's a lot of idiots that are out there. So, heck, it might be me, we never know. Right. So, well, good. That's good to know. Well, we started off talking about resolutions, and I should have just went into that right after the bat. But I want to know. So every year, right after New Year's, everybody has resolutions. Usually, that's kind of a common thing. I know one of my brothers was asking, "What's your resolutions? What's your resolutions? What's your resolutions?" I don't normally have resolutions. I do know that for me, I think by after my favorite meal from Halloween all the way through January 2nd. Yeah, because I'm just eating through at that time. I feel for me, it's time for me to get cleansed, start to go in the gym, start working out. And every time you go to the gym, you get into the gym, and there's all of a sudden it's packed with people you've never seen in your entire life. Like, what's going on here? You can't get equipment, you can't get on equipment. You're like, man, I got to come at a different time. And then after about 2 weeks, it fades off. So my question is what do you think about people and resolutions? Why do they quit so easily when it becomes difficult? Why do you think people just don't keep their resolutions? I'll start with you, Holly.
Oh, okay. Well, it's research shows that 65% or more, and that's a statistic from this year alone. It's not like an old statistic. 65% of people only fulfill their promise because somebody else has put them up to it. And so that tells me about the human race, that we don't care about doing stuff because we don't care about fulfilling promises until others are involved. So I think the biggest thing really is accountability, because you may think about it. Like, if I made a promise to somebody, it's because, and if I fulfill it, that's basically 65% of our population is basically said that we only fulfill this promise and we're only doing this, we're only doing that. Our motive is surely just because somebody else told us to, somebody else wanted us to. So there was a certain level of consequence to it. So I believe that the reason why we stop in fulfilling these goals and we just continue on with old habits and things like that is just because of accountability, and because we don't really see that much of a consequence. We really don't see that much of a reward. We saw the consequence in fulfilling the promise, but after that it just ran off. So basically our own schedules were so caught up in conquering our own consequences from our choices in life, of past choices and present choices, day-to-day choices, that we literally cannot take a reward and a consequence that lies past the reward of that consequence for future reference. That's so crazy to me that the human race is like that we literally can't feel, we can't deal with the consequence, we can't deal with future consequence, and we're only dealing with past consequence because there is accountability there. So that's why I think 65% is a huge statistic.
It is big. That
It's
makes
a
a
huge,
heck
it's
of
a
a lot of sense.
huge percentage.
Making
Yeah.
yourself accountable to the people that are asking you, because nobody cares until somebody knows that they're watching you, right? That makes a lot of sense. I like that. I didn't even know that was a statistic out there. I should have looked that up myself, but that's cool. Thanks for bringing that one up. Corey, what about you?
I just don't think we're as advanced as some of our friends in space. That's all. We're not as on top of things as maybe they are, right?
I'm sure
well, I
they
mean,
just have a
Holly,
little pill that just makes everything just melt
yeah,
right off,
take it
right?
off big. Right. Well, Holly brought it up, but consistency, consistency obviously is a big deal. But I don't think it's necessarily a negative thing that people are like that. I mean, we're born into that, right? We're born into needing other people, right? That's the thing about humans in the first place. We need society and we need other people to survive. We can't jump up and run around and fend for ourselves within hours like a deer can. You know what I mean? We need people. We're born with it. And when we're angry, we like to, complain to other people. And I think that one of the tricks to being consistent is, yeah, like you said, having coaches or somebody that you're making these promises to, it matters because then you have somebody to celebrate with. Then you have somebody to say, hey, I'm struggling. And we all need that. And it doesn't happen very often. I know you're particularly kind of bringing up working out, exercising and stuff. And it doesn't happen because it is tougher to find someone to partner up with on that kind of stuff without going the extra mile and paying the money for personal trainers, which work for me. I can tell you right now, I know coaches work, trainers work, somebody standing there, not just getting on top of me, but sharing in the victories and setting the goals and saying, we're going to do this. And, and seeing it through together. And when you make those little changes that matter, you have somebody to run off and tell. You have somebody to say, hey, and sometimes it doesn't always matter to the people around you when you have the little victories, or sometimes you're trying to hide it because you don't want anybody to see the little victories until you show up and everybody's like, oh, look how good you look. And, because you were trying to stay away from them or whatever. And all those silly things that we do mentally stops us from being consistent. And I think consistency is about celebrating those tiny victories all along the way. And I just don't think we're as well practiced at that. I mean, we're in the infancy of learning a lot of things about how the mind and the body works. And I think we're just kind of learning all that. So I'm not as hard on us about all that. I think we're going to learn and figure it out and we'll get there. And I think that's a journey everybody should be on, though. Everybody should be trying to figure that out. But otherwise, I don't hold it against people. It's kind of part of our nature, right? And most people don't realize, hey, I need somebody else. Hey, I need that help. I need that helping hand. Plus, a lot of people don't know how to ask for help. A lot of people don't know how to say no either, right? How often you tell somebody, hey, come and do this, and you get a million excuses instead of just, I don't feel like it. I want to stay at home with my wife tonight. That's all. You're going to get fake excuses instead, right? So, it's a communication thing and a consistency thing.
Makes sense. Everybody likes that shot of dopamine, right? When somebody tells you look good, and it makes everything that you've been doing that much better, But you can get other things that can give you the shots of dopamine. Cell phones, every time you get that buzz, like, oh, somebody's liking my post, somebody's looking at me, somebody's texting me. We get that in there, so that's interesting.
Anthem buzz when you don't even have your phone in your pocket.
Yeah, definitely, right? What about you, Linni?
So I just have to laugh at the question because I don't think I've ever made a New Year's resolution. I think I don't remember ever making New Year's resolutions. I remember making fun of people who did New Year's resolutions, and I never understood my own thought process behind it, other than why in the world would you need a resolution? Because yes, January happens once a year, but what about August? What about June? Yeah. So in June, you decide you want to lose weight, but you got to wait till January to make the decision to lose weight. Right? Like, It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand his resolutions, but I do have a funny story that's connected to this. And what I learned from it is that years ago, I lived in LA, never saw people work out, run around, like never, right? Like my commute to work, never saw this. One day, it's January, and I see this girl running for her life. Like she is sweating, running. And then I'm like, my heart is like, oh my gosh, is she okay? Then I see a man running after her, and he is like full speed running towards her, and she is running as hard as she can away from him. That is the story I created in my head. So I pulled over because I'm calling the cops at this point, right? There is a man chasing a woman. This is not good. I'm in LA. So I pull over, I'm starting to dial, and then I see a whole group of runners running. So clearly these two people were just ahead of the pack running, but the rest of the people who were slow joggers behind them. And oh yeah, it's January. This is when people run outside in LA. And then I never saw that again. I never saw people running after that. I left my house, would go to work the same time every day. That's the only time I ever saw anybody running in LA, was this one time of this poor girl running for her life. And the story I created was that she was being chased and she needed help. So like, I don't know, New Year's resolutions. It's like, it would have been great to see that same runner group, right, running the next day, but I didn't. Maybe they changed their run time. I don't know. But I read an amazing book years ago, and my husband and I say it's the best marriage book, although it has nothing to do with marriage. And it's called The Four Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin. And so there are, what you guys are talking about is obligers. There's an external expectation, and they have an internal expectation. The external expectation would be a coach, a trainer, someone saying, hey, you need to run. You've hired me to tell you to run. And so because you've hired that person, there's this external expectation and you uphold it. And so you go.
Yeah.
Then there's that's the obligers. The upholders, they have an internal expectation and an outside expectation. So if someone says you need to do it, and they say I need to do it, they will uphold that expectation and they'll do it. Then there's the questioners. They will resist all outward expectations. So they're told to do something, they won't do it. This is me. This is why it was like, this doesn't make any sense. Why would you hire a trainer? Just do it on your own. This doesn't make any sense at all. So the questioner will resist all expectations, all rules, anything at all, until their questions of why are answered. So if the why is bigger than the question, then they will uphold it, their own internal expectation, and they will do it. So if the why is large, they'll follow it. Then you have the rebels, and the rebels' famous line, this is my husband, he's the rebel, you can't make me do it, and I can't make me do it either. And they resist all external expectation, but they also resist all internal expectation. And so there is this real war inside of them, and they make up a very small percentage of the population. So this war of, okay, I want to do this, but I don't want to do it. And they really have to wrestle with it. So their famous line is, if you just say to a rebel, well, if you want to, then they might actually consider doing it. But it has to be their own decision, and they still have to wrestle with it. But the obliger is the majority of Americans, and I think the obligers are around 70% or so of Americans. So this 65%, Holly, that you're talking about and not being able to hold a resolution would make sense. Like those numbers.
So it's not the questioners and it's not the rebels. So it's the obligers, is what you're saying. Got it.
The obligers.
So we need to like we need to go and we need to form a circle around the obligers, like a loving circle, I feel like, and we just need to figure out a method with them, like the group tonight. We as a group need to just circle around the.
This is why you mention accountability. The obliger loves accountability. I, as a questioner, hate it. Why would I ever tell you anything that I'm planning on doing until I do it? Once I do it, I'll tell you I did it. I'm not going to tell you that I want to do it until I do it. Why would I tell you that? It makes no sense to me. But an obliger, it totally makes sense to them, and they need it. So it's so fascinating how people are wired, and I love it. The book is called Four Tendencies. It's excellent.
I'm gonna have to get that book.
Yeah, it's cool. Great.
Huh. I like that. That's definitely interesting. I myself, I mean, I've been a coach my entire life, pretty much. I've been an athlete, and, working out for me has been something that, it's natural, and I think when I was younger, yeah, it was fun to have a friend or a buddy to work out with. But I've had buddies that you work out with, and I realized, dude, I don't really get a whole workout in, because what do we do in the gym? Oh man, so what are you doing today? And then we get done, it's like, hey, let's go grab a beer. It's like, that kind of defeats the whole purpose of what we just did, and but for me, I was always the kind of person that can just push myself, my wife likes a trainer, people like trainers, and being a coach, I probably pissed everybody off in my family 1,000 times, because I'm always like, hey, you're gonna eat that, the running joke around our family for years is like, oh wait, we're having water right now, oh, David's full, he just had a sip. I'm like, seriously, does it look like I mean, it does not look like I'm that skinny, no, but the bottom line is, I realized over the years I was very pushy. And I wasn't thinking about it. I'm just thinking, hey, it's just the right thing to do. I just want you guys to be healthy. And it got to the point where I finally said, you know what? If I just do my thing and not say anything, and people start seeing differences, or they notice what I do, maybe they'll start falling in, because everybody wants to go and work out. And the reason I brought it up is because I saw a TikTok, like the day after New Year's, it goes, for anybody who knows about working out, and like, here we go again. Guy walks into the gym and he's like, oh geez, and he looks around, and the craziest people in the world doing people doing things that you shouldn't be doing. Like, what are you doing? But it's packed. And he goes, I'm gonna have to change my time, and leaves. But that's something that we've been joking around for years. It's like, oh man, you better get in early, because we call it the resolutioners are coming in,
Right,
and
right.
they leave after 2 weeks, and it's back to normal again. And it just got me thinking. I was like, why do people talk about these resolutions so much if they don't really follow through with it? And you hit it on the nail when you said it was 65%. I didn't know it was that much. But that does make sense. We want to hold ourselves accountable if somebody's watching. If they're not watching you, who gives a crap? And oh wait, I'll have that Twinkie, nobody's watching me. It's just later on when you look at yourself in the mirror and you're going, oh no. Or what I'm finding is hanging out with my parents who are retired, and their friends, it's like the first 5 minutes of the conversation when we all get together, it's like, so how is so and so? Oh, we're at the hospital. That's what we do now. We just go around hospital to hospital. It's just a normal thing. And my kidneys, my liver, this, that. And I'm just thinking, a lot of that stuff probably could have been helped if you just ate right, worked out, took care of yourself. And I'm big on, do I really want to live to be 100? I kind of do, just because it's kind of a goal I set. But do I want to be around?
It's an internal expectation.
It is. It's an expectation. It'd be cool to see what happens by the time I'm 100, but I don't want to outlive everybody I ever loved, So where's the fine balance? Where do I stop telling people that I love, hey, you need to start, don't eat that, or start working out, or do this or do that, or hey, let's go for a walk, or that's something personally I have to work on. That's why I'm saying that book actually is probably something I can use. As a coach, it's different. And I've said this for 20 years. I will never make my players do anything I can't do, or I wouldn't do myself. However, and I tell them flat out, I can't jump anymore. I have a bum knee. My knee's done. That's because I played so hard for 20 years.
That's fascinating, because most coaches in my experience aren't like that, especially football.
Oh yeah. I agree.
Things have changed a lot in
that.
20 years, but 20 years ago, hey coach, I need some water. Oh no, go do some more burpees. We're not getting water right now. It's not a water break right now. And now, because there's so many kids that have died because of dehydration in the Texas heat, well, now we do a lot more water breaks, right? So things have changed in the coaching world as well. But yeah, there was a time where coaches did not do what
man, that used to frustrate me. I'm out there running around, I'm doing things at practices, and then I got another coach sitting in a cart over there who's got diabetes, and
drinking a Diet Coke.
Drinking a Diet Coke, because that saves you from getting fatter, and it's like, no, but really, I agree, so lead by example. That's a big thing, but resolutions, I don't think we really did resolutions this year. I think it's just an internal thing for us that, hey, what can I do this year that's different? Kind of like us, we're both, Catholic. And so we think we do Lent every year. I give up cussing. That lasts for the entire time of Lent. And then I let loose as soon as we're done with Lent, and it's great. But it
only during the off season, right?
It does help me, but
40 days not cussing, so he gets as much.
I am not laughing. I am not laughing
at
you. Okay, just wanted to make that clear.
Every year, every year they ask me, like, Coach, is there something wrong with you? What do you mean? You've made up a new name for every single cuss word you would say. I'm like, oh, Well, that's because I gave up cussing. They're like, really?
That's
Okay,
clever.
we thought you were getting soft.
I've never heard that for Lent. That is the funniest thing ever.
Isn't that clever, Linni? Yeah.
It is. That's quite clever.
I'm not giving up beer because St. Patty's Day is during that time frame, and it's not happening for me. All right, that's just not happening in this family. Now I hear some Vikings.
But it's okay because you're gonna go run a couple miles to work off those calories from that St. Patty's beer, right? So
yeah, exactly. But get up at 4:30 in the morning, make yourself
hobble.
do it. I'm gonna hobble the bum knee. So that moves into a question that I have been arguing with people for years, and it's because I have to admit I'm just not a huge superhero fan. I mean, when I was a kid, it was fun, but I like movies. I like them a lot. I loved the movies in the 80s and the 90s. I grew up on Goonies, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Just it was always amazing movies. And we had every genre. We love scary movies. We always watch over and over and over as a family, every comedy that we absolutely love. We're always talking about it. We can quote all the movies, just love them to death. And my family absolutely, starting with my nephews and nieces and my wife, they absolutely love superhero movies. And I feel like it might be because I'm only around a family that they love all movies, but it seems like every superhero movie that comes out, we're there. And I was getting frustrated the last couple of years. Like, it seems like not a lot of movies. Now, there's been some here in between, but it's always a superhero movie. And it's like 5 Spider-Mans, 18 different Batmans. I'm like, dude, we did this with Halloween back in the day, and Friday the 13th, 1000th, whatever episode. My question to you guys is, why do you think it is? Do you think the fad is ending? Where do you stand on this? It's just a question I wanted. Why do you think there's not been a lot of new movies? Everything seems to be recycled. They make Starsky and Hutch and Barbie. Well, Barbie's not kind of new, but it's like they're just recycling movies that were great before. Why mess it up? So what is your thoughts on that, Corey?
Well, first off, as far as recycling movies goes, that's always been a thing. I mean, Alfred Hitchcock remade some of his own movies, right? At 39 Steps he did, and then a few years later, technologies came along, he redid it. We're watching The Aviator the other night. Howard Hughes did that, right? He just spent 2 years filming Hell's Angels and then goes back because sound is invented. He goes back and literally spends another year reshooting the entire thing to add sound to it and stuff. So as far as recycling, as you're putting it, plus this is something we do often argue about, you and I, every superhero movie that comes out is not good, right? It's not, but they're giving, like, yes, my sons love it, his wife loves it, and we're giving it a chance because it's still spectacle. It's still giant, bright, full of explosions. Now, if I'm going to watch a movie that's a sleeper or a movie that's a mystery or something of that nature, it's not always necessary to go to the movie theaters to go and see that, right? Definitely for me, I'm one of those dudes. I actually enjoy romantic comedies with my wife, but I never need to see it on a big screen. The big screen and the big sound, what's the point? It does nothing more, sitting there watching it at home. But the superhero movies, what else do we have? You got a point there. What else do we have? Like, that requires going to a theater to see it, right? A lot of them are making these movies and stuff, and unfortunately, a lot of them are doing it for Netflix and COVID. For guys like me who love movies, COVID hit us hard on that because a lot of people are like, all I gotta do is stay at home. I'm like, yeah, but again, not a lot of the movies have spectacle. So you're getting dragged to a lot of the superhero ones because they are spectacle, right? But we did go see Godzilla, which, by the way, was awesome. And yes,
Amazing.
But it was actually a really good movie.
Yes,
like, not
it was.
for a Godzilla movie, but like genuinely good movie. Good history.
Yes.
Like, it was a great movie. And we've seen a couple that were good. And as far as like new, it depends. I mean, what are you looking for? We had some new stuff in the 2000s. I'm with you. I love the 80s and the 90s, 60s, 70s. I watch silent films. I watch silent films with my kids. Like, I love cinema. And yeah, recently there hasn't been as much. I 100% agree. Early 2000s, geez, we had Lord of the Rings, we had Pirates of the Caribbean. Even the 2000s had some good movies, but you could argue Lord of the Rings had been done. Pirates of the Caribbean was a ride. Pirate movies have been done before. Cowboy movies have been done before. So, we're always going to go back and forth on that because I don't, like, things are going to repeat themselves. That's a part of it. But I do agree with you that the superhero movies get tired and old. They're not nearly as fun as they were, say, 7, 8, 9 years ago, right? Or even older than that, like when the first couple of Iron Man movies and the first Avengers, those were amazing. Those were spectacle that was like legit. Those were fantastic. I'll give every Batman a try, you know that. And the last one was actually really good. Last one was really good. But so I disagree with you on that. You know, I disagree with you on that. It's spectacle, and that's why you get dragged to the movie theater for it. As far as the rest of the movies, man, bring them to me. I'm not seeing them. I agree with you on that. I'm not seeing a lot of new, interesting ones, and the ones that everybody's talking about seem to just be full of shock value, and that's why everybody's talking. Not because it was genuinely told a story in the cinematic format. So I agree with you on that front, but I disagree with you on the superheroes. They can be fun. They're getting old. They're getting formulaic to the umpteenth for sure.
Well,
But at
I've
least
heard
they're still
actors say
getting-
that that's the pinnacle of your career once you get a contract with a superhero movie. You know,
Oh
it's
yeah,
like,
you're going to make money, and kids across the U.S. and the world are going to know who you are. I mean, it's instant for them. All that for sure, and it makes money. And unfortunately, it's a business, and that's the product, and that's what the product is selling right now. So that's where the money's going to go. That's where all that stuff's going to go. It's just kind of a natural thing. I don't have to agree with it. You know,
Yeah.
I would like to see other movies as well, but again, like you said, who's making them? Where are they at?
Yeah.
What are we getting? You know, it's hard. It's even hard to see the
Well, some
independent
of the
ones
best
these days.
movies
There's
that
not a
we've
lot
ever
of those.
found were B movies, right?
Sometimes, yes.
What
Sometimes some
about
of
you,
the
Holly?
I'm gonna say that just simple. We just got out from the writer's strike.
True.
There are a lot of writers that are there, a lot of writers that are really not working. And I have a lot of director, you know, with it's because I'm in film also, because you know, I have a lot of friends, I'm telling you, that are they're just, people are just not writing scripts anymore. If you're involved in a project, you're a director, you're a producer, you're the writer, you're the actor in it. Everyone's producing their own these days. They're not hiring a writer. And so
Yeah.
and that's what's really the essence of it, is they're doing it themselves, and they're doing something that they feel is the flow. And rarely do we actually see, to believe it or not, we're really rarely seeing movies with causes attached to them. And if it is a cause attached, it's supposed to be, there's a lot of expectation behind it, and that's great, and it should be in the box office. There's a lot of movies that are involved with good causes, you know, sex trafficking or raising awareness to an illness or disease, that kind of thing, or an ailment, something. And so those movies, the expectation is high. Many have been successful. Others, yeah, not so successful, probably because the wave didn't really hit all around. The wave didn't really, you know, go across Europe, or, you know, enough, or didn't, it wasn't popular in China, was more popular in Brazil or Italy, or so. It's just one of those things. People are writing themselves because they don't want to pay for a writer. And if they do pay, they're not going to pay anything. I'm telling you. It's
Hmm.
everything that has been worked on in the past, just simply, if you see an algorithm of a repetition, it's because it is an algorithm of a repetition. It's an algorithm, it's a cliche algorithm, and we keep seeing it because they're sticking to their own. These directors are liking their themes, and they keep going with it. Now, the good news is for us actors is they're not using the same actors. They always want to keep it young and fresh and everything like that. Hopefully, other times they're just looking for people who can, you know, be on set and just do, you know, what they want, and structured in that. But as far as writers, I absolutely agree. I think that I don't think I'm seeing a lot of. I'll go to the theater and I'll see, but I can't remember the last movie that really kept me sitting in my seat minutes afterward, like 30 minutes afterward, and I'm still in my seat. And that's how you know it was a good movie. You're in your seat, you stay till the credits, then you stay till the lights in the theater are back on. But I'm with Corey on this. I really, really think that you don't always have to go to the movie anymore. I know it's
Yeah.
terrible, because I would want people to go and support my film. I go and support others who have their same film. But a lot of my friends, even who have movies, that are in theaters. They're not in theaters. They're really, you can go and get them, and you're not really worried about, well, how am I going to support you in that, because they've already negotiated, and they're already covered as far as that goes. So you don't always have to go to the movie theater. So I absolutely agree with that. But that's basically my point. There are really no more writers anymore, and the same writers that are writing the same thing, and it's just a bad algorithm right now. So in lieu of good causes, I really hope the algorithm changes.
I agree. Linni?
Well, I would say there are writers, Holly. My husband is one of them. And and the issue that he has come across with filmmaking in general is that he has written movies that producers have said, well, what is this movie like? And then he has to come up with a lookbook and to show that this movie is like this movie, like this movie, like this movie. And his problem is that his movies, his screenplays that he had written weren't like anything else. So no one wanted to read it. And so he finally got the advice saying, hey, stop making screenplays and start creating pilots, because there is no money anymore in making movies as a writer, but Netflix will look at your stuff. And so he has now changed all of the screenplays that he has written over the course of the last 20 years have now all become, he's in the process of all becoming TV pilots, because that's where the writing is right now. So I think there's this insular protection of and I've been in these rooms. I used to work for some of these companies. You're in the room going, okay, this gosh, I so badly want to say some of the names of these movies. I can't. But movie X, we know that this
say
is
say it.
Can't. Oh, I can't. I can't. I so badly want to, though. One of those movies you guys just mentioned, it's targeted towards a specific community, a specific group of people. We know that we will get a specific number of butts in the seats. How much money will that produce? Therefore, how much money will we make? And so they start backwards. So it's, okay, this is the movie we want to create. Now we're going to go find a writer who's already created it for them to write our idea, because we already know we have a built-in audience. So I think that there's this circular reasoning around movies right now that no one actually has. The 80s and 90s were huge risks, right? There were a lot of movies where it had never been done before, so let's go and see what happens. And now there's such a high risk aversion in Hollywood. No one wants to lose money. So it's, 80s and 90s, you could lose a couple million. Now you're going to lose 80 million, 90 million, $100 million, and you don't even know. Could it bomb on the first weekend? It's there. I think now the cost to make a movie is so much higher that the risk aversion is also great. And so to try and create movies that are, there's the formula. It's the Nicholas Sparks books, right? Like A plus B equals C. You're going to have a built-in audience. And so that's where you're going to keep going. I would love to see Hollywood go back to some of these older ideas of filmmaking, that you're just telling a great story. Mm-hmm. And that is what I would love to see. But this is why, Holly, you're totally right in saying that it's the writers, also the producer, also the director, and probably the main character, because they are the only ones that are able to greenlight their own stuff, because they're not getting greenlit anywhere else. And yeah, saying that as someone who is married to a writer, plus in the industry in really weird ways, it is, I think it's really complicated nowadays. And you're right. I think it's a lot. I mean, now that Netflix is running the show, that it's all in TV, and you can stay at home and watch those all day long. And people are willing to pay for that, and writers are getting paid well for those TV pilots. So who knows?
That's
well
amazing.
said.
Yeah, that very, very well said. I liked everything, man. I have tons of ideas. I just tell Corey and anybody else that's willing to write it. I just do the acting part. That's all I say. Just as long as there's things to act in. But I just don't want to do superhero movies. Not that they're asking me. Well, that was awesome. I mean, heck, you know what? I figured that these questions would probably look at me weird when I asked them, because I thought that these are just how my brain works sometimes. But it turned out perfect. You guys had excellent things. Actually answered some of my real thoughts in that process. And I wasn't sure if that would be something that would be as entertaining, and I was well entertained with that. So I'm going to go ahead and say let's end this, but I want to end this on a good note. I want to know what movie out there that you guys recommend or you should go see right now? I'm going to start it off with, I think that Godzilla was excellent. I had no expectations, just thought it was going to be another one of those. Oh, here we go again. But it stuck to the culture, the Japanese culture, the history. It explained things that I understood from a historical view. It brought the monster in. It brought the whole storyline. I actually walked out of there thinking, man, I wonder if that could happen. I mean, and that's crazy because I never walked out of a King Kong or Godzilla movie like, oh, that was fun. The CGI sucked or that was great. This one, I was like, wow. That was a great story, great setup. And you know what? Not one time did I have to get up and I think it was 3 hours we're in there. I didn't even know it was 3 hours. And not one time did I have to go to the bathroom or anything else. I was like, even if I did, I'm getting kidney stones a day. I don't care. I can't miss what's about to happen. And I don't get emotional. And I was getting emotional. And I was like, holy cow, it was that good of a movie. What about you guys?
Cried at a Godzilla movie. My wife cried.
Wow.
Yeah, it was good. It was the story. I mean, it was about the people. It was really well done. So, I mean, you do have King Kong though, Dave. The Peter Jackson King Kong and the original King Kong were amazing, but Godzilla's never really had like a good movie. It's just fun. But that was like genuinely good, I thought. That was up there, probably right under Peter Jackson's King Kong. That's gonna be my recommendation too, because I haven't seen much. Oh, you know what? We did see Wonka. I actually enjoyed Wonka.
Yeah, Wonka was good.
Wonka was good. We watched that too, and Wonka was actually good. I had no expectations, but well, I can't say that. I was a little worried. I love the Gene Wilder one, and I'm a huge Tim Burton and Johnny Depp fan, but I did not like their version.
Really?
No, I didn't. I felt like their movie was really fun until you got to the factory, whereas the original one was kind of boring until you got to the factory, and then Gene Wilder steals the show. I didn't like Depp's take on the character, right? He's agoraphobic, so he's never around people, so he's afraid of kids. He doesn't know family, and he just seemed like he was a bumbling fool. Whereas Gene Wilder was never around anybody, so he read all the time and was constantly quoting literature and really knew every inch of his factory. Therefore, everything that was occurring with the kids was way more sinister, in my opinion. So I was worried, and they did a good job. And sometimes I love musicals, but the music's got to be good. So I was like, yeah, it's gonna be musical. I don't mind that, but I love it when the music's good. But this actually had pretty good music, and the story was good, and it was acted well. I think they did a great job. I was actually very surprised with it. It was a good kind of prequel to Gene Wilder's
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, good movie.
What about you,
Okay,
Holly?
well, I'm convinced to see
Linni,
Godzilla and Wonka. So I'm convinced to see Godzilla and Wonka. You've convinced me. I'm going. So
They were good. Godzilla -1. That's what that one's called.
okay.
I have zero expectations. I'm going to tell you the last movie that I probably watched in theaters was probably, oh my gosh, I'm even drawing a blank right now. It was not Wonka. It was what was that movie?
Barbie.
No, the movie about the female couple who gets married, and this other couple are reunited. They all go somewhere. It's a weekend destination movie. I don't know what it was though. I forget the title. What I will say is this: I love the movie theaters. But I prefer to be at home when I watch a movie. I will say this: the two movies that I really recommend are The Assistant. It's called The Assistant, or that other movie where they're trying to she's trying to prove, it's a lovely actress, she tries to prove documentations on President George Bush. It was great. It's a political movie. It's got a meat of a plot. These plots you really don't see often. And she works with this whole, I think it's like Fox, something like that. Fox or it's not CBS. They wait for like a high-end and anchor, their group of anchor cast, and their job is to prove the documentations are real. They interviewed a couple who can prove that, because he had the original documentation of a letter that proving that. I mean, it's just a whole story. It's just a whole story that unfolds. When I forget the name of it, but that or The Assistant, because it just proves what Hollywood is, and everything around what's going down currently with womanizing, let's just say the Me Too movement, all that kind of stuff. It's just like it explains things,
Wow.
from a female perspective. So yeah, that. But I'm
You
mostly
got to message me when
fascinated
you
with
know
the
it.
book from Linni. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that message me when you remember the name of that, because I definitely want
I
to
will.
check that
I
out.
will.
And Lenny, any movies, or are you just gonna go see
No,
those two?
no, I'm good with you guys recommending Wonka and Godzilla. So no, we're solid.
Awesome, awesome. Well, man, I always have fun talking to you guys. It was a blast. Good
Same here.
questions, good answers. I read through my questions about 5 minutes before we started, and I thought, I'm probably gonna bore everybody with these ones because that's in my head. But you guys blew it apart. That was awesome, and great questions. You guys answered a lot on that with the movie things. That makes a lot of sense to me. So I appreciate it. Look forward to checking that book out. But other than that, you
The Four
guys,
Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin.
that sounds awesome. Definitely cool. Well, it was great talking to you guys again, and hopefully we'll see you guys soon.
All right, bye.
Have a good one. Take care, guys.
Bye.